There's a lot going on with Verizon lately, including raking up $1.9 billion in severance packages and buyouts for the third quarter of this year. Plus, they're acquiring Frontier for $20 billion. So I have a few articles to go over what exactly is happening lately with Verizon and what is soon to come. So let's dive in. Our first article is from Benzinga, and the headline is Verizon to record up to $1.9 billion in cost for layoffs, assets, and sales in Q3. And as always, the articles I reference are down in the description below, so you can read the whole thing for yourself. I'm just going to go over the aspects that cover what we're talking about today. The key points here are that Verizon is going to book $1.78 billion to $1.9 billion in severance charges in the third quarter of 2024, and that over half of the 4,800 layoffs expected will exit the company in September. So Verizon expects to book a severance charge from anywhere between $1.7 billion and $1.9 billion in the third quarter due to the previously announced Voluntary Separation program. So this is something that we've talked about before, and I even posed the question to you guys if you would accept a buyout, right? If you would just basically put up your hand and volunteer to be fired. And some of the points we were talking about back then is maybe it's better because if they approach you with the offer to voluntarily separate, to leave the company, then you're probably on the chopping block anyways. You might as well get your money while you can. And we see a lot of times with these companies, they'll put aside a certain amount for layoffs, for severances, for buyouts, things of that nature. And once that money's gone, it's gone. So even if you survive the first round of layoffs, you might not still get the same level of severance package if you wait around and maybe you're let go in the second or third round of layoffs. So unfortunately, a lot of the times when you're at an organization and they present you with an offer to voluntarily separate, which is good for them because it shows, oh, well, people are just leaving. It's not that we're laying off a bunch of people. It's only that people are just, leaving on their own accord. We're not firing them. Everything is good. We can't help it if they choose to just go and work somewhere else, right? So if you're presented with that, it's probably a good idea to take it, especially if you've been at a company for a long period of time and you might get a very long severance package where they're paying for your benefits and paying for your salary, sometimes 6 months. If you've been there a long time, maybe even up to a year. The article goes on to say that in June of 2024, Verizon shared plans to downsize 4,800 employees by the end of March 2025, with over half of those employees exiting in September 2024. So we have 2,400 of the announced layoffs or downsizing, if they're not laying off everybody, to be in September, this month. So really not spacing it out too much. We're getting half of the overall number that they expect to get rid of just by the end of this month, in the next 2 weeks or so. It says in September, Verizon plans to discontinue certain real estate assets and exit non-strategic portions of certain businesses, leading to asset and business rationalization charges of $230 million to $380 million in the third quarter of 2024. In July, Verizon reported a top-line growth of 0.6% to $32.8 billion, missing the estimate of $33.1 billion. The company ended the quarter with 11.5 million broadband subscribers, up 17.2%. Postpaid phone net additions were 148,000, beating estimates of 118,000. Last week, Verizon agreed to acquire Frontier Communications Parent Inc., FYBR, for $20 billion to boost its fiber and wireless services. Verizon stock is up 28% in the last 12 months. Investors can gain exposure to the stock through Invest Dow Jones Industrial Average Dividend ETF and another ETF. Verizon stock is down 0.15% at $43.68 at last check Thursday. I saw the comment the other day that someone said that it used to be when companies laid off people, that'd be a sign of trouble, and then the stock price would go down. Now it's the opposite. If you could tell the investors and shareholders that you're about to lay off a bunch of people, the stock price goes up. And as we talked about before, there's really two ways to net more money. You can make more money, which none of these companies seem to know how to do, or you could cut your costs. And unfortunately, the easiest cost to cut for these organizations are the average workers. I mean, it's not decline to pay CEOs millions and millions of dollars each and every year. It's just lay off as many hardworking people as possible. Okay, great. Now we have a higher net profit. So it's just a shame to see company after company going through this where, I mean, where the heck are we? Where the heck is anyone supposed to work anymore? Almost every company that you've heard of is doing major layoffs. And yes, I understand that I'm pretty sure all of America, if not at least most of America, are at will states where they could just fire you for any reason. But dang, it would be nice just to be somewhere where you can have some kind of stability or certainty in your job, and you don't have to just worry each and every week that this might be your last week to have a job. And then with how hard it is in this job market to land something new, who knows how long you'll be out. I mean, it's taking hundreds, if not thousands of job applications for people to land new jobs, and sometimes that's not even enough. Next, I have the Form 8K that Verizon filed with the United States Securities and Exchange Commission. And this is pursuant to Section 13 of the Securities Exchange Act of 1934, and the date of report is September 12th, 2024, from Verizon Communications, Inc. And this is important because this goes into their official documentations and reasonings why these kind of things are happening lately. So under item 8.01, under other events, it says Verizon Communication, Inc., the company, and together with its subsidiaries Verizon, expects the following items to impact its reported financial results for the third quarter of 2024. In June 2024, Verizon announced a voluntary separation program for select U.S.-based management employees. So it looks like in June 2024, they started with managers, select managers, and they decided that those would be the first people to be offered this U.S.-based separation program. Approximately 4,800 eligible employees will separate from Verizon under this program by the end of March 2025, with over half of the employees exiting in September of 2024. So if I'm reading that correctly, this is really offered to management first. And this is something we talked about when it came to HSBC, where it seems like their first swipe of layoffs was coming from middle managers. So if I'm reading this correctly, if it's for select US-based management employees, Verizon is also starting with middle management. But these layoffs are never just one and done, unfortunately. So there's no reason to expect that these layoffs won't continue. And if they're starting with middle management, then it's going to continue on to more frontline workers, more people from other departments as well. The report goes on to say that principally as a result of this program, but also as a result of other headcount reduction initiatives, the company expects to record a severance charge in the range of $1.7 billion to $1.9 billion, $1.3 billion to $1.4 billion after tax in the third quarter of 2024. As part of its continued transformation initiatives, in September 2024, Verizon plans to cease use of certain real estate assets and exit non-strategic portions of certain businesses. As a result of these strategic actions, the company expects to record asset and business rationalization charges in the range of $230 million to $380 million, which is $170 million to $290 million after tax in the third quarter of 2024. And we touched on this earlier, but I have more of a full article that I found on Benzinga as well. And the headline is Verizon to acquire Frontier in a $20 billion deal, reaffirms fiscal year 2024 outlook. And the key points of this article are that Verizon acquires Frontier for $20 billion, expanding its fiber and wireless services, including Frontier's 2.2 million fiber subscribers. The deal is expected to close in 18 months, boosting Verizon's revenue and achieving $500 million in annual cost synergies by year 3. And this was posted on September 5th, so 18 months from the beginning of September. And it goes on to say that Frontier Communications Parent Inc. shares are trading lower after the company inked an acquisition deal with Verizon Communications. As per the terms, Verizon will acquire Frontier in an all-cash deal valued at $20 billion. In particular, Verizon will acquire Frontier for $38.50 per share, a 43.7% premium over Frontier's 90-day volume-weighted average share price as of September 3rd, 2024. And this is similar to what we talked about with Cisco. It's not that the company is running out of money because Cisco was deciding to invest in AI-related companies, and I think it was many billions of dollars that they were spending on these organizations. So it's not like they're running out of money, they just are choosing to go in different directions. So when you're working at a company, I mean, how could you really even know that were to be the case? Even if you look at the financial statements and they have plenty of money, like in Verizon's case, what is it, $20 billion for Frontier, and they're paying for that in cash. So it's not like Verizon is suddenly running out of money, and it's not like they're running out of cash reserves if they're paying for this in cash. So how are you supposed to know that the company is going to do layoffs and that you might be one of them? Even if you do your research ahead of time and look at the stability of the company, you could still be caught off guard with a layoff. And even if they take on new companies, it's not like you're necessarily going to have a new job in the new company, because they're taking on new companies so they'll get rid of your position and then any similar positions at the new company as well. It's just a shame. And if I was working at one of these companies and I saw that the organization still has plenty of money, and if I know that I was doing well at my job and I'm still laid off, especially into this job market, I would be very ticked off. The article goes on to say that the acquisition will integrate Frontier's advanced fiber network with Verizon's extensive fiber and wireless assets, including Fios. Frontier's 2.2 million fiber subscribers and 7.2 million fiber locations will join Verizon's 7.4 million Fios connections. This strategic buyout, involving the largest pure-play fiber internet provider in the U.S., will significantly enhance Verizon's fiber footprint nationwide, boost its delivery of premium mobility and broadband services, and expand its intelligence edge network. Frontier has invested $4.1 billion in its fiber network over the past 4 years and plans to expand an additional 2.8 million fiber locations by 2026. The transaction has received unanimous approval from the board of directors by both Verizon and Frontier. The deal is expected to close in about 18 months, pending approval by Frontier shareholders, regulatory approvals, and other customary closing conditions. So similar to when we were talking about Dell and they decided to let go members of their sales team and then start reinvesting in sales teams with experience in AI. Really, I think that a salesperson should be able to basically sell anything. There's a lot of transferable skills. Yes, you'd have to learn the product, but sales techniques should help you sell basically anything, especially if you're familiar with the organization. But if they decide to let you go and hire new people, what are you supposed to do? I got to imagine that's more around finding cheaper labor than it is that the people that they had at the company did not have any sort of skills that they were looking for. And we have a similar thing with Verizon. Well, they're going to buy Frontier, and then they also say that they're going to invest in AI and IoT. And I got to imagine that a lot of their employees, especially these 4,800 people who are about to be laid off in the next year or so, have these transferable skills that they could use in these new departments and these new divisions. But maybe similar to Dell, they're just looking for lower cost employees as opposed to just people who can do a certain thing that their current employees couldn't. So that is what's going on with Verizon lately. A lot of news there, from the 1.9 billion that they could spend in severance packages, the 4,800 people that will be let go, including 2,400 by the end of this month. It would be a wild time to be at Verizon right now, for sure. Talk to you later.